Have you ever wondered why some women live alone? No boyfriend, no partner, not even seeming like they're looking for one. You see them, serene, self-contained, and a quiet question might stir within you. What is their secret? The world often rushes to fill that silence with assumptions, loneliness, lack of options, perhaps even heartbreak. But what if the answer lies in something far more uncomfortable, more unsettling, something that deconstructs everything you were taught about a woman's role? Because when a woman chooses to be alone, she isn't getting lost. She's finding herself. And that kind of profound self-discovery doesn't come with applause, likes, or constant company. It comes with silence, strength, and a kind of freedom most people still don't fully understand. No, she's not lonely, she's selective, she's not cold. She just got tired of burning for people who never truly wanted to feel her warmth. There's something profoundly threatening about a woman who doesn't need a relationship to feel whole, isn't there? This shatters the logic of control, dismantles the myth of emotional dependency, and reveals a brutal truth. Most men don't know what to do with a woman who doesn't need saving, and most women are still learning to recognize themselves in that silent, yet deafening mirror of power. Carl Jung once said that everything we deny in ourselves becomes part of our shadow. And many of these single women are actually a reflection of the collective shadow. They are what many dream of becoming, but few have the courage to embody. They don't scream for love, they whisper their choices. They don't put themselves on display to attract attention, they retreat to preserve themselves. They're less interested in charming princes and more in their own profound peace. And that makes people uncomfortable. Because while the world demands urgency to be with someone, these women have discovered the power of being with themselves. The woman who lives alone isn't lost. She's operating on a different level. A level where nothing is begged for. It's chosen. Where approval isn't needed, presence is enough. And maybe that's why she sparks so much criticism, so much judgment, so many attempts to label or explain her. But what many still don't understand is that behind her apparent absence is a presence that fills, that transcends, that challenges the emotional status quo. The silence that surrounds a woman who lives alone is not emptiness. It's a sanctuary. And those who don't understand the value of that space often call her cold, distant, or even arrogant. But what few people see is that she didn't build that fortress to shut the world out. She built it to not lose herself. Carl Jung also said that everything we don't face in ourselves, we end up projecting onto others. And maybe that's why so many women still confuse solitude with absence, when in reality it can be the fertile ground for self-discovery. While most people look to fill themselves through external connections, this woman turned her gaze inward. And there, in the vastness of her own unconscious, she faced the ghosts she avoided for years. Childhood wounds, unspoken abandonments, attachments disguised as love. Her decision to be alone didn't come from an open wound, but from a scar that finally healed. She didn't stop believing in love. She just stopped accepting what others called love. when it only made her feel smaller. This woman knows chaos. She's loved until she lost herself. She's given too much. She's begged for crumbs that never should have been offered in the first place. But at some point she woke up. And that awakening wasn't sudden. It was a series of disappointments that stopped hurting and started teaching. What you see now isn't coldness. It's emotional maturity. And maturity is scary because it demands presence, depth, and truth. She doesn't want just any company. She wants reciprocity. She's no longer attracted to promises, but to real presence. So maybe that's why she seems unreachable to many, because she doesn't want to be saved. She wants to be seen. And that takes more than charm or sweet words. It takes courage to dive into the depths where few dare to go. And that's where many give up. Not because she's difficult, but because she's whole. And when a woman becomes whole, she awakens two extremes in the world: admiration and fear. Admiration from those who are also seeking that wholeness. Fear from those who still live in halves, waiting for someone else to make them feel complete. She doesn't want to complete anyone. She wants to overflow alongside someone who has also found themselves. Until then, she remains alone, not by fate's whim, but out of loyalty to her own soul. This woman isn't hiding. She's protecting herself. There's a vast difference between isolating and preserving oneself. But the world doesn't easily accept a woman like this. A world that still preaches happily ever after only exists in pairs. A world that distrusts those without a partner as if that were a sign of failure. Carl Jung once said that where convention rules, there's little room for authenticity. And this woman doesn't live by convention, she lives by essence. She hears phrases like, "You're too picky, you should be more open, nobody's perfect." And she smiles. A calm, steady, almost ironic smile because she knows what many call picky is simply the bare minimum. The minimum it took her decades to realize she deserves. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for someone mature enough to love without destroying. Someone who's done the inner work she has already faced. And let's be honest, that's not something you find on just any street corner. The discomfort she causes isn't in what she says, it's in what she represents. She's living proof that it's possible to be happy without depending on anyone else. And that tears masks off. Men who feed on female insecurity feel threatened. Women still trapped in the need for approval feel judged. But she isn't here to confront anyone. She's just being. And the authenticity of someone who has freed herself is by itself a brutal mirror to those still living in chains. This woman isn't in a hurry. She doesn't need to rush things to please anyone. She respects her own pace. And for that, she stirs a silent fury in a society that wants everything now. She wants depth while the world chases distractions. She wants presence while the world offers only shallow availability. She longs for soul-level bonds while everyone else is trying to look interesting on the next Instagram story. And when she says no, it's not a game, it's truth. When she walks away, it's not drama, It's self-defense. When she chooses to stay home instead of going out with someone empty, it's not arrogance, it's clarity. And that clarity, earned through pain and surrender, is her greatest revolution. Because she doesn't live to please, she lives to be. And that simple act, being, is what makes her so dangerous to the system. Perhaps what unsettles people most about this woman isn't her solitude. It's the peace she's found within herself. Carl Jung taught that those who look outward dream, but those who look inward awaken. And it was precisely that inner journey that she took. It wasn't easy. It was a grueling process of stripping off masks, facing the ghosts of emotional dependency, and rebuilding herself piece by piece. She no longer defines herself through the eyes of others. She sees herself through her own eyes. And that changes everything. How many times have you wondered if being alone is failure or freedom? How many times have you felt the need to justify yourself for not having someone by your side? This woman has felt that too. She once thought there was something wrong with her for being alone in a world that idolizes couples, even unhappy ones. But one day she understood it's better to be alone than to be invisible in a relationship. And that day she made a pact with herself. Never again would she accept less than what she truly deserves. Her path is not a straight line. There are days of doubt, moments of nostalgia, nights of deep silence, but there's also a strength that grows with each decision, made in awareness. She learned that true love doesn't cage, doesn't consume, doesn't manipulate. The love she wants is the kind that liberates, that adds, that supports without suffocating. And until that love arrives, she chooses to keep growing on her own. Not out of pride, but out of integrity. This woman is the living embodiment of Jung's individuation. She shattered, faced her shadow, descended into the unconscious, and returned more whole than ever. And now that she recognizes herself, she refuses to be half of anything again. She doesn't want someone to complete her. She wants someone to share that awareness with. That's intimidating because it demands emotional responsibility. And sadly, few are willing to love responsibly. Most still love out of lack, out of possession, out of fear. And if she walks alone today, it's because every step echoes with learning. Every no she gives is an act of self-respect. Every absence she imposes is a reminder that love should never be begged for. She no longer needs to prove anything to anyone. And that certainty, born from the deepest part of her soul, transforms everything around her. Because a woman who has rediscovered herself becomes dangerous. Not because of her weapons, but because of her clarity. The world will keep trying to tell her she's missing something. It will keep offering distractions, plastic princes, love made for display. But she's already seen behind the curtain. She's already understood. It's not about finding someone. It's about never losing yourself again. If this message found you at the right moment or awakened someone you forgot was living inside you, then I invite you not to keep it to yourself. Share this video with other women who need to remember their own strength. Like it, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Not out of impulse, but out of choice. Because when something touches the soul, the least we can do is let it keep resonating within us and through us.